Hi, welcome Tiffany Daugherty of Johnson & Johnson to U.S. Veterans Magazine. It's such a pleasure to be able to interview you and learn more about Johnson & Johnson and to give the recognition to Johnson & Johnson for being a top veteran employer.
Well, I'm so excited to be here, Lisa. It's great to see you.
Absolutely. And I want to go ahead and start off by saying, I understand, and I didn't know this before, that you're a veteran. So thank you for your service. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself, the branch you were in, your journey to Johnson & Johnson, and what your current role is and your goals for the company.
Yeah, thank you so much. I absolutely am an Army veteran. I joined the military at 17 myself, but that really came off of growing up in a military family. My father served 21 years in the Navy as a fire control instructor. And so then when I graduated high school, I joined as an air traffic controller. I got to live overseas and serve in the military, but actually separated much earlier than I planned and had to regroup and figure out my career again. So having watched my own father's transition and my transition, I think really inspired me. I spent 10 years working in higher ed as a career counselor on a variety of college campuses, and then really wanted to transition that work to working on solutions for veterans, military families, and employment. So I did that on the nonprofit side and across a variety of industries. And now at Johnson & Johnson, I lead our enterprise-wide strategy for all the ways we support the military-connected communities. So that's from our hiring efforts, our policies, to all of our nonprofit partnerships and the way in which we support military medicine. So it's a really exciting book of work. And we as a company, it's something that we've been doing really since our very beginning. And I think we'll talk more about that, but excited to be here and excited to share that with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very interesting background, even the part about being an air traffic controller, because that is the number one most stressful job on the planet, for what I've read. So you must be able to handle a lot of things. So that says a lot about you.
Yeah.
So my next question is more about the unique history. So Johnson & Johnson has a very unique history with our veterans. Can you share the story and the history, including the company, how it worked to hire service disabled veterans after World War II, and how the legacy even continues today?
Yeah, I am happy to. It's so interesting that we often think that this is such a modern thing that we do to support the military. And it's very humbling and grounding to me to realize that we've been doing it from the very beginning for well over 130 years as a company. In fact, when we were founded, it really goes back to Robert Wood Johnson. His older brother served in the Civil War, and that really inspired his career in healthcare and then in sterile surgery, which really had a lot to do with how he lost so many service members in the Civil War. And we carried that on to after World War II. We identified over 700 jobs that disabled service members could do in our company, and then published a booklet that we shared with other companies so that they could do the same. And then even before that, I'm going to go back in time to say after the Spanish-American War in the late 1800s, we held our service members' jobs so that they could raise their hand and go and serve, and we paid their salaries. That is not something that is new to us. Yeah. That is something we did all the way back then. And it carries through today. And again, having really supportive policies, but our North Star being around hiring people, but not just hiring them, ensuring that they're in the right roles, that they're thriving while they're here, that they're able to build long, sustained careers, and just understanding their value as part of our company, not just veterans, but military spouses and those currently serving.
Oh, it's so amazing to hear that history, how just one idea, look at where they're at now. You care for service, you're in the service, and then now I don't think a lot of people realize the history, and I think that's so important. And today, I'd like to know, how does Johnson & Johnson support veterans and the service disabled veterans and even the military spouses? Tell me about your programs, your policies, the initiatives that support such a unique, amazing group of individuals.
Yeah, I'll start with the policies of how we support our military connected community. That's what we say here within Johnson & Johnson. We have a really generous paid leave policies for both those who are currently serving, so those who get called up to active duty. we don't ever want them to have to worry about taking care of their family or their job back at home. So in addition to, of course, abiding by USERRA and protecting their job, we pay their full salary for up to 36 months. And that includes transition time coming back to work as well, because we understand that they need that as well. But we also have instituted a policy for our military spouses that they get an additional 2 weeks a year for any of the matters that come up that are around the impact of their life around service. So that's deployments, activations, relocations, that many of us know. I was a military spouse, but those have an impact. You got to refigure out childcare, reconfigure life, take on additional responsibilities. And we want our spouses to not have to use their vacation time to do that. We give them some additional space. And what's really interesting to me about that is we see their stellar performance. They perform as well or better as the rest of our employees, and they retain as well or better, often better than the rest of our employees. So it really pays dividends to us to take great care of them in that way. But in addition to policy, we've really created a connected community of our Veterans Leadership Council. Our Employee Business Resource Group has 25 chapters across the country, including a military spouse-focused chapter and an actively serving chapter that's focused on Guard and reservists and supporting them. And really, really active with 1,000 members so that folks never feel alone. And a quick example is through our spouse chapter, we had two active duty military spouses who didn't know each other, were living in different parts of the country, who found out that their spouses were serving on the same military ship, got to know each other, and ended up meeting up for R&R in Greece to meet each other in person and meet their spouses for their 2 weeks off. And so really this sense of deep community and support, I think, permeates all that we do.
Excellent. I love the way you recognize the value of a veteran. Can you tell us a little more about why employee retention is so strong and what makes people, want to build a long-term career there? I mean, I even have a neighbor who's been with you for 20 years. And I mentioned to them, oh, I'm interviewing. And they said, oh yeah, I love my company. So, I mean, that's just straight out of somebody that I know. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think we always have to start with purpose and culture, and that anchors for Johnson & Johnson in our credo. And our credo is just embedded in everything that we do. I keep it here right at my desk. And it says,
wow.
It really anchors in how we make all of our decisions. And it's 4 paragraphs. I won't tell you about all 4 paragraphs, or get into all 4 paragraphs, but I will say it says the order of how we make decisions. And it starts with patients, doctors, nurses, mothers, fathers, then our employees, each other, and then the communities in which we do business, and then our shareholders. And has a lot of must statements. We must respect our differences. We must. And so within that, I think that really permeates the culture, which makes people want to stay. But beyond that, when I meet someone who's been here 20 or 30 years, and that surprised me so much when I came to the company, I say, why? And they say, because I've had 3 or 4 careers. So tons of growth opportunities, tons of structured programs. Right now, I have someone working with me on what we call a grow gig, where they can dedicate a portion of their time to learn a new skill, work on another team, move around. Particularly, though, why I think this is so strong with our veterans and our military spouses is they really can find that new mission, meaning, and purpose, and really identifying the work that they do with changing the future of health for humanity and how that ties in so deeply with really, really critical mission for this world. And I think that resonates with this population. And you can hear them talk about that, especially our folks who are out selling in the field in sales. You don't think about that, but they are so passionate about access to the leading products that can help other families in their communities have the best access to care.
Oh, that's great. I mean, we understand that Johnson & Johnson supports the military in many ways, including a unique commitment to supporting military-connected nurses. Can you tell us a little bit more about that work too?
Yeah, absolutely. We are. There are 2 sides of this. We are really committed to both military medicine and also, so the nurses serving our community, and also to military-connected nurses, veteran service members, military spouses that are serving as nurses. And we as a company have been committed to nurses as our #1 social impact cause that, in the military for, again, well over a century. And we are bringing that work together now, especially launching in 2026. We just hosted a convening at our headquarters, bringing together nonprofit partners, corporations, and nurses to talk about how we can further this work. And we're launching a mentoring platform with our partners 50 Strong that's just for military connected nurses across the country when you land in a new community or you're going through school to find mentors that can help you to navigate that stage of your career, that rising into leadership. Or we've invested in a lot of nonprofit partners like the National Military Family Association to provide scholarships and to provide support. And you can find a lot more about what we just broadly do for nurses as a whole at nursing.jnj.com. But really, really proud of that commitment and really proud of what we do on the side of medicine as well for our military community.
Excellent. Can you share a little bit about your hiring process for veterans and military talent as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a few ways in which we hire. We do have some dedicated hiring pathways, like our Military Veteran Leadership Development Program, our Veteran Sales Pathway, that we are really have found exceptional talent come through. But largely, we want to hire veterans across all of the ways in which we hire, from IT to finance to many people don't realize this, but we are a large manufacturing company. In fact, we've committed $55 billion in investing in new manufacturing facilities in the U.S.
Excellent.
between now and 2029. And so we are hiring in advanced manufacturing roles all across our company. And one of the best ways to learn about how to get into that, how to sign up to learn about our roles, how to connect directly with our military hiring team, how to translate your military skills, is we have a dedicated page that has all of those tools, and that is careers.jnj.com/military, because really we want to hire veterans and military spouses, and again, members of the Guard and Reserve, in all of the ways in which we hire.
So it's so obvious that Johnson & Johnson deserves this award and recognition, not just because you are on the forefront of that as well, you and your team, but just their history and their continued progress and support of the military talent pool. I want to ask you, what does this recognition, being a top employer, mean to you personally and to Johnson & Johnson as a whole?
Yeah. You know, I've always said that the real awards of my career are not the trophies, but they are the individuals that have come back later and said some interaction that we've had somehow impacted them and there was a ripple in their life. But the truth is, these recognitions are a way of knowing that those small ripples are adding up to something. They hold us accountable. They make sure that we are continuing to look at and drive toward best practices, that we are learning from other companies, and that we are sharing everything we know with any company that wants to know it, so that we are part of taking our responsibility for this community and moving it forward. So it's a way in which we hold ourselves accountable. We celebrate it. But again, we see it much more as a way that we are continuing to hold ourselves accountable and continuing to benchmark off of what's the best in class. And while we've been doing this for, again, well over a century, we want to keep making sure that we are meeting today's needs of our military families today and rising to that challenge. And this award from U.S. Veterans Magazine, I think, is such an honor to us and helping us to make sure that we're continuing to do that. So thank you for acknowledging it.
Absolutely. And I want our readers to know your rich story, but also all the different opportunities and support that's available. Is there anything else, this is my last question, about yourself or about the company that you'd like to share with our readers? And I'd like to know personally if you have a motto or something that you kind of say all the time that's something about you, because I think you're a powerhouse. And I just want to know, what's that one thing you always say to go there that's really you?
I love that. Thank you for that. About our company, and just, I guess I would throw this advice to other companies, is support is most meaningful when it's tangible. So embed it into your policies, really get your top senior leadership supported, and take those small tangible actions. But for me, and my motto, I steal from Stephen H.M. Covey, and it is progress moves at the speed of trust. And that motto reminds me to stay human, to connect with the humans in front of me, and the value in continuing to do that and to base things on real relationships.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for your story, your time, and sharing Johnson & Johnson's full support for veterans. And I look forward to seeing what else you guys will do. And I wish you the absolute best. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mona Lisa. Have a great day.